Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. I've been running for a few years now and have the privilege of meeting many incredible runners on my travels all across the country. This podcast is intended to share those amazing conversations. And welcome back. I am here with Lou Serafini. Lou, thanks for joining in today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
For sure. So let's start it off with the $1 million question. Who is Lou?
I guess, that's obviously a tough one to kick off. I would say I've probably evolved a bit. College people probably know me as like a very serious runner, and then kind of post-collegiately, I feel like it took me a long time to come into my own. But now I feel like I'm just someone who likes running and likes to get the community together as much as possible, and help others kind of like find the joy in running. And then in my downtime, I love cooking and drinking beer and hanging out with Gabby. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
That's the dream, right? All the running, the life, the social stuff.
Yeah.
And you're running a pretty awesome, Your running is pretty awesome, and then outside of that, you're running a pretty awesome store over there at Tracksmith. So let's first talk about that. How do you balance the running work with the work?
It's challenging for sure. I'm very lucky that I found a place that supports everything that I do with running. And the two jobs definitely kind of feed off of each other. We obviously have a really vibrant running community over at Tracksmith, and it makes it really easy for me to go out and do what I need to do from a training perspective. For example, like one of the biggest days of the week for me, when I'm not behind the laptop, is leading our group long run Boston Marathon training. And, we get over 100 people show up for that every Sunday, but I can still go out and get my long run in that day. So there's a lot of flexibility where I can kind of get out and do what I need to do, but also kind of check the things off the list that I need to get done at work. So I'm pretty grateful that they've given me the flexibility to do both. So
cool. And you're not just, out there puttering along with your long runs. I see your, 6 flats and 605s and all that for 20 miles. I think a lot of the people listening to this podcast probably, and myself included, can't comprehend what it's like to run that fast for that far. So let's talk about the progression to getting up to that speed. What did it look like over the last, 10 years to get to a point where you can, run 20 miles in 2 hours?
Yeah. Well, it definitely takes time. I mean, people talk about being like a student of the marathon and learning how to train for the marathon and race a marathon. My earliest memories of doing 20-mile long runs was when I first graduated from college. I was about 1 year out, and I was training for the Vermont City Marathon. And we would always go out and like hammer our long runs super hard in college, 5:45 to 6:15 pace, but those were like 14, 15 mile runs. Yep. And I definitely have some early memories of getting to that 16, 17, 18 mile mark and kind of hitting the wall and having to kind of jog it in. So not every week's like a 6-minute pace 20 miler, but it's more just about like measuring your expectations and listening to your body. So, the long run is a big focus of my training. So usually I'll go into it feeling pretty fresh and just kind of ready to let it rip a little bit. But there's also definitely a lot of weeks where I go out and I run 7-minute pace or even 7:15 pace for a long run, just because my body's just tired and sore, and that's kind of the deal. So the miles have kind of stacked up over the years, and it's gotten easier and easier to kind of progress down to that pace. I mean, there's plenty of guys out there that run faster than me for their long runs. I think everyone's a little bit different, and you need to figure out what works for you and what doesn't. So I know plenty of guys, local guys, that go out and the long run is not as much of a focus. They just go and get out and run time on their feet, and they're running just as fast for their marathons. So
cool. Yeah, it's definitely a puzzle in figuring out the pieces that work for you. Let's talk about you mentioned the community aspect and helping other people get out there and such. how have you come to the place you're at with your role at Tracksmith? Was that what you were hired for? Is that what you've sort of built for yourself?
So I think, well,
and first, can you do a little explanation of Tracksmith?
Yeah, sure. So, quick explanation of Tracksmith. We're a New England-based running apparel brand, specializing in trying to just fit all the needs that runners have. So, really, staying away from cutting corners and delivering the best possible product that we can put out there. For example, we have racing shorts that have 3 pockets in the back that are perfect size for carrying goos. So like we try to find those small problems and deliver like an excellent A+ product for our customers, while also keeping a very like timeless aesthetic. So the gear that we put out is not super flashy. It's meant to be worn for a long time, which is why it's a little bit more of a premium brand. If you buy something from Tracksmith, the expectation is that you'll hopefully have it for many, many years. But anyway, I always say I got really lucky with Tracksmith. They reached out to me, and I felt offered me a position that was pretty much tailor made to fit my strengths. Like I wasn't really sure the direction that my career was going to go. I had a lot of experience working in the run specialty industry and managing retail stores and working with, runners. And I was starting to build up my coaching resume a little bit. And Tracksmith, when they were first getting off the ground, did a lot of Boston Marathon pop-ups before pop-ups were really a thing. Now everyone's popping up everywhere. And I think Tracksmith was one of the first brands to kind of get in on that. And about 3 years ago now, they decided to go all in and get a retail space for the Boston Marathon. So they opened in April, and then about a month or two later reached out to me. And we're basically just like, yeah, we've got this store in Boston now. We need to start a running community. We need to get the store up off the ground. We need someone to manage the store and build a running community. So that's kind of where I fell in. So it's been a really fun journey the past 3 years, just building that running community up from the ground and trying to give it a heart. It's cool because Tracksmith is a pretty young brand. So the people that wear it just have that sense of community and sense of pride in the clothing that they're wearing. I still feel it every day. I go out and run on the river and I see someone wearing Tracksmith. A lot of times I recognize them, but a lot of times I don't. And it's not the same as like if you're wearing a Nike singlet and you see there's a million other people that are wearing a Nike singlet. It's cool to go out on the river and see the other people that are kind of representing the brand. So yeah, it's been fun. And then about a year ago, I transitioned away from doing a lot of the retail related things so I could focus on bigger picture community stuff. So activating outside of Boston and just trying to have a little more flexibility to work on bigger picture things. So.
Cool. Yeah, and it's been awesome what has developed within that facility itself. I mean, Wellness Emotion is now in there, and you guys have a ton of events. We here at Inside Tracker, we've hosted some events with you guys, and it's cool how it's become just a hub of running for the city, and it's like a central, like, hey, where are we going to go? We're going to go to Tracksmith. So what's the vision that you have for that community role?
Well, I mean, maybe a better way to answer is just the vision for the track house is kind of like what you just said. We want it's really cool to see, Matt's vision for the running community. It's obviously not a revenue driver, right. But he is just like committed to, having a really vibrant running community, not just in Boston, but globally. And obviously starts in Boston. So I think the vision for the track house is like exactly what you just said, right? Like, it's the place to be if you're a runner in Boston, the place to come get a coffee or go for a run. We have lockers so you can drop a bag, the place to come watch Diamond League or the Olympics. We always have track on TV, all those things, or place to go get PT. We've been really lucky to have Wellness Emotion. So,
or burritos when Fall was in town.
What's that?
Or burritos when Fall was in town.
Here. Yeah, exactly. And who knows, like what elements there are going to evolve. We are always trying to improve and be better. So, right now, the big thing for me is just like, how do we continue to establish that reputation in the city as the place to be? So I'm working hard to do that every day. I would love, I mean, it's unclear like how my role and as community person is going to evolve, because I think we kind of have to wait and see, you know, how the brand expands. You know, will we end up in different cities? You know, we just launched a Hair AC program last year, where people can be a little bit more in touch with the brand. You know, you get a singlet, you can earn a PR bonus, early access to product. Those things we have to wait and see how that program kind of grows and expands. We're trying to find more ways to get ambassadors involved with the program. We launched our first ambassador program for the Olympic trials this year. So there's a lot of like moving pieces that are really exciting and get me excited. So it's one of the fun things about, as you know, like working at a startup. Right. You know, there's never a dull moment, and you know, we'll keep cranking and see how that kind of develops.
Cool. So you mentioned the trials. Let's shift gears a little bit. You are running in about a month or so now down in Atlanta. What are you most excited about for that day? Let's start there.
I would say, well, first of all, I'm really excited to be able to share the experience with Gabby. My girlfriend also qualified at the Philly Marathon, so I mean that's going to be special to go down with her. And you know, it's always nice when Gabby and I are running the same race, because it just feels like she's laid back, I'm not, and it takes a lot of the pressure off of me. I feel like her being laid back helps me feel a little bit more laid back. So our families will be down there. It should be fun. A lot of our friends are coming as well, so I'm excited for that. I'm also just excited to go down there, and I don't want to use the word like redeem myself, because or the expression I should say, because I don't have anything to prove necessarily, but I dropped out of the trials in LA. I was a lot younger and a lot less experienced at the distance, and all I knew going into that race was that I was super fit, and all I could think about was flat course, fast people equals fast time, and it was a hot day, and I overcooked it and had to walk it in, and that was tough. And I'll never forget like the feeling of being at the finish line and seeing all the finishers with their medals. I've never before wanted a medal after a race until the Olympic trials in LA. So, you know, I've been telling people all along, and it hasn't changed. My number one goal is to cross the finish line.
Get a medal.
And I know that might sound a little silly for someone who's an elite marathoner and is trying to go and compete and be up in the front. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like, whatever it takes to cross the finish line, that's the first goal. So I'm excited about that. And you and I chatted about it off the air, but there's some people going down. It's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people in Atlanta. Atlanta Track Club, I think, has done an incredible job of uniting the running community. You can tell how much they care about this race. So I think it's going to be a really fantastic weekend, and I'm just excited to be a part of it.
Cool. So noon start, end of February in Atlanta. Hopefully it won't be as hot as LA. I went for a run with our friend Seth Waltz that morning at about 10 o'clock that day, and we did 10 miles, and I was like, how the hell are people going to run a marathon in this? So hopefully you don't have that experience again. But it's a little hilly. So functionally, being here in Boston's not, you know, a flat city like a Chicago or a Miami or whatnot. How are you using the geography of what we have around us to your advantage, where some other people might not have that?
Probably not using it enough. We're over in Somerville now, so it's a little less hilly on that side of the river. I used to live over in Brighton, so I think if I was there, I would be doing every single run out and back on Comm Ave probably. Yep. I've done a couple tempos out on the Boston Marathon course. We're really lucky. I think that it seems like the Newton Hills kind of like really simulate the Atlanta course quite a bit. I've got a pretty laid back coach that's very go with the flow, and I don't think thinks about those things. I
Yep.
think his philosophy is more like
Get as fit as possible.
exactly. Yeah. You just get super fit, and then you can just, as long as you run a smart race, you can take whatever the course throws at you. But I'm definitely over the next 5 weeks going to try to do as many of my long runs as possible out and back on the course. I've probably got a couple. We do a tempo run that starts at mile 17 of the Boston Marathon course and finishes up around the reservoir. So it's a rolling hill tempo.
Nice.
I'll probably try to do that another couple times before the trials. So there's a couple key workouts that we kind of have lined up. But yeah, I mean, it's nice. Like, we were pretty lucky in Boston. I feel like there's 1,000,001 good places to run, and especially this time of year, if you know better than anyone, if you go out on the Boston Marathon
Right.
course on a Saturday or Sunday,
It's a party out there.
you're not running a straight line.
Right.
you're weaving in and
Yeah.
out because there's maybe thousands of people every Saturday and every Sunday out there. So it's cool, and it's cool to have that sense of community. Like, all these people are out training for the Boston Marathon, and it's good to know that you're not alone. So
Yeah, it's super cool. I was out there on Saturday with some friends, and we saw all the Dream Far runners, so all the ones that are wearing the orange T-shirts. And my understanding is that they're all students who are training for a marathon, which is like such a cool concept. And last year, I remember running next to or running alongside some of these groups, and I would overhear their conversations like, oh, I can't imagine, like earlier in the season, like, I can't imagine running 12 miles. And then the next week, I can't imagine running 14 miles. And that number just kept building up. And then they were out running 20 miles.
Yeah.
And these are kids that had never done it before. And it's really cool to share the same space. Might not be running the same paces as them, but they're doing it too.
yeah, no, I mean, come across so many unique stories in the past 7 years or so, just working in the running community for people training for Boston. I mean, we used to get people come in like signed up for the marathon and have not run more than a 5K. You know, it's crazy, but like I still tell people, like, anyone can do a marathon. You just gotta be consistent, and like you focus on just doing one good long run each week and staying healthy. You'll probably get there.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
So why'd you do your first?
Oh, that's a fun story. I had no intention. So you have to back up a little bit to senior year. I had a pretty bad knee injury, that was just kind of keeping me from competing. And I also I don't know, I had 4 years of college where I didn't improve that much. I was really frustrated, wasn't enjoying the sport, which is why I really preach like finding joy now, because I've been at my low, and I know what it feels like. And if you're not enjoying it, what's the point? You got to keep looking for the things that spark that joy. So I graduated, and I was like pretty much sure I was never going to run ever again. I knew I would run, but I was like, yeah, I'm not going to race. Like, I'm probably not going to run as fast as I ran in college. Like, it's not as fun for me. But basically what happened was I fast forward from spring to winter. All I was doing for running was maybe like couple 8-mile runs a week, 3 or 4 days a week. I'd go out and run for an hour. And I had a college teammate who was training for the Boston Marathon, and he started to like basically drag me on his long runs. So I was now doing like 3 or 4 8-mile runs, still no workouts. But then on the weekend, I'd go out and do like a 16-miler, an 18-miler with this guy to just kind of help him train for Boston. And there was a couple long runs where like maybe we like finished like an 18-miler around 6-minute pace or something like that. And it started to get me thinking like, what could I run for a marathon? Like, I've always been pretty good at long runs. I've always been pretty strong at the end of them. And one thing that I did want to do, you know, before I hung up my shoes forever was run Boston. So I was like, you know what? I've been doing all these long runs. I might as well sign up for a marathon and get a BQ. And so I signed up for Vermont City. And I ran the first half in 70 minutes and the second half in 86 minutes, 85 minutes. I had a couple bad miles and cramped up a lot. I didn't take any fuel. I didn't think I needed to.
In the marathon?
I just didn't think, we never took fuel in college for long runs. So I was like, yeah, like diluted Gatorade. Like I got my own bottles and I just filled all of them with diluted Gatorade because I was like, that's probably all I'm going to need.
100 calories.
Yeah,
in the marathon.
yeah. And then someone tossed me like a vanilla goo at like mile 19 and I caught it and ate it. And that was the only gel that I had.
God.
And I walked mile 24 and limped it in. But yeah, I got my BQ and then I trained for Boston the following year, like added in some workouts, did regular mileage.
You add in gels or anything?
Oh yeah. After that race, I was like, I did something wrong in the fueling department.
How did you feel after that race?
Depleted,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, it was hard. I had to drive home from Burlington and I was like really nervous that I was going to like cramp up at the wheel.
Yeah.
Because it's like a 4-hour drive back to Boston. But anyway, yeah, like, I mean, I caught the bug after that. I did more mileage when I trained for Boston the following year than I ever did before. And the fitness was coming and I was fitter than I ever was in college and the times were faster. And I just, from there, I was hooked again. So
do you think that break you took was critical? Or do you think that break is why you're still running today?
Yes, in certain, yeah. I mean, I think that there could have been a scenario where I didn't take a break and I would still be where I am. But the bigger thing for me was like, I needed to take a step back. So a break, just to kind of like be able to tell myself that like, this is not your entire life.
Right.
There are other things that you can focus on, like your friends, your family, your work. Like there are so many other things that you have going on. It doesn't just have to be running. And then once I started to like find other people that had the same goals as me and were just kind of like helping me find the joy in it, that was when it really kind of like took off for me. So
cool. What are you thinking about on the start line?
In general or in Atlanta?
Let's start with in general.
So it depends on the race for sure. Usually I'm just trying to be as calm as possible on the starting line, and just focused on whatever my race plan is and what I want to do. I try to be as just like clear-minded as possible. So I can just like approach the race, with the best mindset and go attack and do what I need to do. And it'll be pretty similar to Atlanta. But I think in Atlanta, I will be repeating to myself the mantra, go out conservatively, go out slow. Similar, if anyone followed me for New York, that was my thing that like really helped me run a complete marathon. And I know like I've been to one Olympic trials now. I know how it's going to be. Like everyone's going to get out there on the starting line and tell themselves they're in the best shape of my life. A lot of the people that I'll be racing with are going to think that they have a shot to make the team because there's not like a clear top 3 this year. So there's a lot of like quote unquote dark horses in the field. So in Atlanta, I'm just going to be telling myself like, you know, you just do your thing. It's a tough course. It's probably going to be a little warm. Everyone's going to be pressing and you'll pass a whole lot of people in the last 10K. So
I think that's a good plan.
But easier said than done.
Yeah. Didn't you put out something for New York saying if you see me running faster than something, tell me to slow down?
Yeah, I just said if you see me in Brooklyn, just tell me to slow down. And no matter how fast. And it worked. It was crazy. I never like, I don't know. I just didn't know that many people followed me or like actually read the things that I post.
Yeah.
Because I must have gotten like 2 cheers every mile for me to slow down. And it worked. Like I would just smile and wave and like I sometimes know the person, but a lot of times not. I even had someone hand me my water bottle and told me to slow down. It was so cool. And it worked really well. There was like a lot of breaks. I was running with a pack of like 4 guys and there were like probably 2 or 3 separate moments where they would start to kind of accelerate and move away. And I just let them go and just kept doing my thing. And every single time they came right back to me. And I just had a lot more left in the tank. I think if I could have done something differently, I would have held back even more for the next around 16, I got a little bit antsy, and then kind of let the race, you know, excite me a little bit too much. And if I could have held back for a few more miles, I think I could have really lit it up the last 5. But yeah, no, I mean, it worked. The secret to a good marathon is like just being patient. Halfway is 20, you know?
Yep. So if we see you out on the first loop, slow down. That's
and the second loop.
And the second loop.
Yeah, the course is set up in a way where you really can just like chill for 2 laps and then let it rip on the 3rd lap. And I think if anyone, but there'll be a couple guys that probably shoot their shot a little bit early, and I think they'll probably pay for it. So
if we see you on that last lap, what do you want to hear?
Well, if I'm dying, hang in there, finish, or something along those lines, like get a medal. I think would be a motivating cheer for me to hear if I'm dying. But yeah, I don't know. I think if it's if I'm feeling good, just like the usual stuff, just
you're almost there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. I think one thing that's going to be helpful for me in the 3rd lap too, if I'm feeling good, is just, it's a huge field. I'm not expecting to be someone who's up in the top 10 competing. I think I'm more going to be like top 40, top 50. And I think there's going to be a lot of people to be passed. So just like reminding myself that like even if I I'm not going top speed or not passing people every minute, there's a lot of people in the race that could come back, and every place is important. So like a great day for me would be to finish in the top 20. That would be really cool, and that's kind of my goal. So we'll see.
Cool. So you're putting up a lot of miles. You have to sort of know why you're doing it, right? So what is it that when you're getting out for that second run, or you're getting out when it's cold or dark, or when you don't necessarily want to, what's keeping you going?
Fear that my competitors are working harder than me. No, I don't know. It's funny, like I don't even run the most at my company. There's 2 other guys well, 2 other guys that have qualified for trials, and then a 3rd guy that does more mileage than me. So
yeah, I love the tweets, like how you work at a fitness company.
I know. I feel like I could like really take those to the next level too. There's this guy Jason that he lives in Philly, so he works remotely, but he's like the biggest mileage hog. But yeah, there's days where I'll come in and I'll be like, yeah, I ran 15 miles this morning. And I'll look over at Jeff and he'll be like, oh, nice, I did an 18-mile workout. Or I'll pull up Strava and I'll be like, oh, Jeff outran me again today. And thank God Jason's not on Strava, because he probably did too. But yeah, no, I don't know. I have become a big proponent of keeping the miles quality, and not doing too many junk miles. When I was coaching myself and when I went to trials in 2016, I actually used to do like even more than I do now. Like right now I kind of hover in like the 95 to 110 range, depending on the week. But back in the day I would do like 120, 130. It was like the more the better.
Yeah.
And now I really try to like make speed an important component to my training. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't think about it too much. It's just like something that I have to go do. And I'm pretty, Gabby will not listen to this. I don't have to worry about it. Because she'll say that this is completely false, but I think I'm pretty good at listening to my body. Like if I don't want to go double, I won't go double. Or if I feel like I need a day off, I'll take a day off. Those days don't come around that often, because I really do enjoy getting out for more miles and running. But I am pretty good about just like keeping the quality days quality. So
cool.
The other good thing is like the motivating thing is I have a lot of people to run with. I'm very lucky. Because I've surrounded myself with a community of people that are running all the time. So, 9 out of 10 times, if I want to find someone to run with, I can. But there are those tough nights. Like I had one run, it was last Thursday. I had to run. I didn't do my first run until noon because I was just exhausted and I just couldn't get out the door. So that meant I had to do I usually try to get my double in while there's daylight because I have that flexibility in my day. But I had to wait a couple more hours and I didn't start my run until 5:30 and I just was struggling to get out the door and I just couldn't hit start on the watch and it was dark, but it ended up being a great run. Like it was a beautiful night in Boston. It's been a really mild winter. There was no wind. The city was nice and the river was calm. So sometimes the runs that you really don't want to do end up being the best ones. So there's another thing that I've kind of learned over the years.
For sure. So you mentioned days off. Tracksmith has the no days off calendar. I didn't like it at first because I think I misinterpreted it, as did maybe a few other people. Do you want to explain that and sort of go into what that means?
Yeah, I think the spirit of no days off, the thing that you probably thought and a lot of people don't get is like, we're not putting out that calendar and saying like, by accepting this calendar,
never take a day off.
Yeah, you are supposed to run every single day. It's more just like the spirit of doing something every day. Like for me, like I took today off. I take several Mondays off, usually at least 2 a month, if not 3 or 4. And it's more about just like doing something, like go do core or ride your bike to work or something that you wouldn't normally do on your active day, or take a day off and don't do anything. Like maybe your body needs to recover. But it's a cool way to kind of track what you're doing and your week to week. We get so many submissions at the end of the year of like pictures of completed calendars, and it's really cool. Like I think one of the great things about the NDO calendar is there are different. You can interpret it many different ways. Mm-hmm. We get some people that take it so literally, and they're like, I ran 365 days last year, and we're like, that's great, good for you. Like that's an incredible feat. None of us could never do that. Yeah, exactly. And then we get some people that send us these calendars and they have notes written in them and they've circled days that they took off or like wrote in specific workouts. And it's really cool to see people document their training. And like we've done we do the local program on Sundays for people training for Boston. And what we've done for that is a runner's passport, and it looks just like a passport. And you can go in and write notes after your long run each day. And some people have already done the same thing where they've really interpreted it in different ways and wrote really cool things. One of our employees is using it, and he actually did like an elevation profile of all of his long runs, cool. Like traced into his path. It's pretty cool. So it's fun just getting all those submissions and seeing how people interpret it differently. But me personally, I used to run for months and months on end without a day off. And I am the biggest believer in the world that a day off a week is huge mentally and physically.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to be in the same boat for a couple of years. It was like 1 day off a month, and I was running, 45 miles a week and taking 1 day off in the month. Yeah. And I was injured every 3 months. So I wasn't putting up massive mileage and doing that. It was just like not sustainable for the base that I had. And now I'm doing 65 to 75 with 1 day off a week, and just like I feel way better than ever before.
Yeah, it's quality over quantity.
Right.
It's the biggest mistake people make. You don't have to be a beginner to make the mistake. A lot of really experienced runners make the same mistake. But I use Gabby as an example for this all the time. But I coach a lot of people, and when I first started coaching Gabby, she was always hurt. And finally I was like, all right, you know what? Like, we're just going to do 5 days a week. You don't need to run 6 or 7 days a week. Just take 2 days off every Monday, every Thursday. You can cross train if you want, or you don't have to. And she was consistently healthy for 2 training cycles, ran huge PRs. And now she's graduated to 6 days a week. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like your quality days are the ones where you make your gains, your 2 workouts and your long run. Who cares if you're jogging 30 minutes or riding the bike or just sleeping an extra hour? You just need to listen to what your body's asking for. So.
For sure. So the goal of this podcast is exploring the why of what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. And I love sort of exploring that and figuring out what makes people tick. And there seems to be a pretty consistent trend across people who are running at an elite level, or a level that you're at. So what is it for you that keeps you going?
What is the trend?
Well, I'll tell you afterwards.
It's not qualifying for the Olympics or even the World Championships or U.S. Championships. I think my elite running philosophy has been, as long as I continue to improve, I'll continue to do it. the past 4 years, actually, I should say the past 6 years, I've been very fortunate. Each year I've been able to go out and set new PRs and new personal bests and continue to, my coach would say, keep raising the bar, is a mantra that he often repeats to me. But yeah, I mean, the reason that I'm motivated is I don't know. I'm part of this huge community of runners, and they motivate me because they're going out and doing these incredible things. And I really believe that running is all relative. I get so many people that come up and they're like, oh, like I could never run as fast as you do or do what you do. And I'm like,
yes, you can.
Well, that, and also just like, I'm not the fastest person in the world.
Right.
Like there's thousands of people that are faster than me at the marathon distance alone, and it's all relative. I think it's so cool that anyone can go out and be like, hey, here's my goal, I'm gonna go try to achieve it. In running, it's totally a universal sport, you know, whether it's to complete a 5K or to break 4 hours in a marathon or run a BQ. Like there are so many things, and it's so relatable. So for me, it's just like I feed off of that. Like I think it's so cool to like show. I don't know, I've been leading this Tuesday morning workout at the Harvard indoor track, and this guy who's in his 60s, he's the 60 plus American record holder in the road mile. It's like a 5:10 road miler, and this guy's out running like 31-second 200s at 6 a.m. on Tuesday mornings. I'm like, if this guy can do it, like, so can I. Yeah, like it's pretty cool. So yeah, I think that's the big thing for me. There's so many motivators in my life, and I know I'm gonna wake up one day and I'm not gonna like have the itch to like go take it to the next level, but I think I'm going to be someone that runs forever, and my goals when I'm 48 are going to be a lot different than when I'm 28, you know? And that's the great thing about the sport. Right. Your goals can change. I don't know if you follow Craig Lutz at all, but he's doing this thing where like he was a professional runner and he had all these incredible PRs, and I think he recently came out and said something along the lines of like, well, I'm not going to get those PRs anymore, so these are my new PRs, and I'm going to try to tackle them. And like they're probably in some cases like more than like his 5K is probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes slower than what it used to be. But that's cool. Like you can kind of take anything in this sport and make it a goal and try to achieve that goal. So and then if I if I am so fortunate to ever make a team or do something like that, then it'll just kind of happen on its own, I think. So
cool. Yeah, I think that's right in line with what a lot of people have shared. It's very much about the journey and who you share it with versus like an outcome. And if you're focused on the outcome, it's pretty anticlimactic when you actually achieve it, whether it's in running or life or whatever in general. That was like the biggest shift that I had with the coach I'm working with now. And it's just like if you love the process and you love the day in and day out, sure, there are some days that are going to suck or you're not going to feel good or whatever. But from a growth standpoint, there's no better way to improve and get to these tangible goals than exactly how you described.
Yeah, it's super important. Just opening yourself up to as many like positive opportunities as possible helps you kind of get through it.
For sure. What are you scared of?
What do you mean? Can you just in general?
Just in general.
I really don't like spiders.
I love where people go with this. Some people get like really in depth, and like others like snakes or spiders.
Yeah, I don't think I haven't encountered as many snakes, but I don't like if a snake was in my bedroom, I don't think I would do very well with that. Yeah, I could. Yeah. What else? I don't know. I'm afraid of, if we can take it back to running a little bit, but I'm afraid of injury. I've never really been hurt, knock on wood. You know, I work with a lot of people that get injured, and I see how hard it is on them. Let's see. I'm afraid of desk jobs. I'm just kidding. I work at a desk almost every day now, actually. But yeah, I don't know.
What do you do to help prevent injury?
I think I'm really good at listening to my body. And
what does that mean for you?
Just giving it rest when it's asking for rest, whether it's a day off or whatever it is. I'm incredibly fortunate. I think some people have fragile bones. And I'm not one of those people up to this point. I spent a lot of time working at running stores, and I've gotten really good about changing my running shoes. Mm-hmm. I think some people like I've met people that like take pride in running in their shoes for a long time.
Yeah, I
and
don't get that.
Yeah, me either. Because it's like the shoe is only designed to last 300 to 500 miles.
Yeah, I mean, I see people bragging, "Oh, I put 1,000 miles, 1,400 miles on these shoes." It's like you're gonna put a tear in your legs or a break in your bones.
It's so much impact when you think about it. Like it's every single step is greater impact than it needs to be. Like if you run on a brand new pair of shoes versus a pair that has 200 miles on it, you notice a difference.
Right.
So I've gotten really good about that. Like I'm not someone who has a shoe deal. Like I will go out and spend money on shoes because I know how important it is. I think that's one of the simplest ways that I've been able to stay healthy. I have successfully combated plantar fasciitis for 7 years by wearing Birkenstocks very frequently. Another quick and easy tip, if you have plantar fasciitis, go buy a pair of Birks. No shame in wearing Birks with socks in the winter. And then, I don't know. I've also kind of identified my main problem area, which is my calves. So I'm pretty good about using the roll recovery roller every night. I wish I was better about it, but just taking care of the areas that kind of like causes you pain.
Cool. I'm glad you mentioned it. The shoes. What's your take on the shoes in Atlanta?
It's an interesting debate, right? Like, I think for me, I just kind of want to be on the same level playing field as everyone else, and I think everyone probably has the same answer. I would love to be the person that's going to be like, I'm going to take a stand, and wear an old school flat. But I think the game has been changed a little bit. Like, they obviously make a huge difference in terms of cushion and in terms of responsiveness. So yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. Like I'll follow whatever like the rules and regulations are once IAAF makes like a ruling on it, obviously. And that'll be totally fine. I'll go back to running in whatever. I don't have like a huge preference, but yeah, it's interesting. I've gotten a chance to wear the new Saucony shoe. It's nice. Like it's really nice. So I'm interested to see the other ones that the other shoe brands come out with. I think most of them are supposed to come out in the spring. But yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts? I think it's much of the same. It's like you saw on social media a lot of people like with the backlash against Nike and talking, hey, vote with your dollars, but you look at CIM Houston and it's pink and green all over for everyone up front.
Yeah.
And I got a real taste for truly how different the shoe is at pace. A couple weeks ago, I was running a tempo in the middle of my long run. I ran a marathon in the 4%, and I ran a 10K in the 4%, but I had never gone under 6-minute pace. And I was rolling 540. I was like, this is a different shoe. Like, this is an entirely different shoe at this pace. And it is. And the way that the shoe is designed, it actually is. And yeah, I think it's the same thing. I think if you're in contention up at the front, there are a couple of pros that have said this, like you're doing yourself a disservice in placement if you're not giving yourself every advantage that's technically legal.
Yeah, and then on the other side of the coin, though, we could be in a scenario where the majority of both Olympic teams are not Nike athletes.
Right.
Jared Ward, Scott Fauble is Hoka. Jared Ward's Saucony. Parker Stinson is Saucony. There's a couple of those fast Saucony guys. I'm probably forgetting some people on the men's side. And then the women's side, you have Des. You have Emma Bates is Asics and Des is Brooks. So
Sarah Hall is Asics.
So yeah, so it's interesting. Like, we have all these people that are kind of like, the 90% of the field that don't have shoe brands and qualify with next percents. But then you have this top tier and it's a little bit more kind of jumbled together. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I'm definitely curious to see what happens. I will say we've got 9 women that are on our Tracksmith Boston team that have qualified, and a couple of them are not going to wear next percents just because of the whole Nike backlash, and I think that's awesome. So I think, I don't know. I like to think that would not make that big of a difference. You know, you wear the Saucony shoe versus the Nike shoe, like it's probably not going to make a huge difference. You still need to go out and put in the work and the training, and run a smart race.
Right.
Like there's like a million things that kind of come into play. So yeah.
Cool. Where can we follow you on social media?
So I'm at Lou Serafini 1 on Instagram. I have a slightly more dormant Twitter account that I occasionally use, and I'm just going to double check my handle there. New York was the first time I like had someone. I have like a lot of Instagram followers, but not that many Twitter followers. And some guy came up to me and was like waiting in line to get into the Tracksmith pop-up, and he was like, "I follow you on Twitter," and I was like, "Why do you follow me on Twitter?" But now I've got a little bit of a following. I think my humor is not where it needs to be. More a sincere content guy. I'm at Louis Serafini on Twitter, so just my name, and then Instagram is Lou Serafini 1. But
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining in today, and we'll see you in Atlanta. And if you see Lou out there, tell him to slow down.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next week on For the Long Run. And in the meantime, happy trails. If you've enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too.